Hello, everyone, and welcome to this week's episode. We have with us today Michelle Rose Kennedy, and she is not only a Reiki master, but also an Akashic Records Reader, a clairvoyant channel, an author, and a Chronogrammies winner. She combines these gifts with the energy of sound, crystals, and light to help her clients heal. So, welcome, Michelle.
Thank you. I'm so happy to be here.
Yeah, and also you are a Hudson Valley local.
Yes.
And the show we are discussing today is The Bear, which is on Hulu. I think it's originally started on FX, or it's on FX also. I don't have FX, so this is definitely a big spoiler alert because we're going to be talking about The Bear season 2, episode 7, called Forks. But if you haven't heard of The Bear, it is about a young chef from the world of fine dining who comes home to Chicago to run his family's Italian beef sandwich shop after the suicide of his older brother, who left behind debts, a rundown kitchen, and an unruly staff. And I got that just to credit from Wikipedia. All right. So I guess I wanted to start with, why did you pick The Bear? And then we can go into why you picked the episode.
Yeah. So, I mean, The Bear, it's all of these people in this show are hurting in some way or have repressed issues, stress, trauma, right? That they're trying to work out in their life's work, in their professional work. And it's beautiful to see how each and every one of these people in this show, these characters, develop through that. Besides that, I have to say, because I consider myself a writer, that the writing on this show is so spectacular.
Yeah.
It's just, everything flows, the build. It's like a beautiful piece of music, the way the crescendos and the, all these different things that happen in the show itself, or even in each episode. I feel like it's very artistic, and every person in this particular show is a creative, and that's part of their suffering, that they're trying to like achieve perfection, which we can't really achieve in this life, but but it is that sense of self that we're trying to kind of overcome and be what we want to be. So that's why I picked that show. And then that episode we'll talk about soon enough.
Yes. And I thank you for introducing me to the show, because I had actually never heard of it. Although I know I just have been missing stuff, I guess. It's been out in social media. I've seen pictures of the lead actor all over the place, who looks like a young Gene Wilder, I think, a bit. Anyway, and you mentioned too that you are a writer, and we forgot to mention that you have a book that you published last summer, right? Did you say last summer? It's called Hold Space. I have it here. I don't know how great with the reflection. It says Affirmations and Meditations for Healing and Loving Yourself. And I did start to read it, as I told Michelle. It's a great book to go to and maybe just read a couple pages or read a lot of pages. It has, like I said, affirmations, meditations. You also said that with the meditations, can you get them audio? Did you say?
Yes, there is a QR code in the back of the book.
In the back,
that you can basically download the audio files for the meditations.
That's awesome.
I don't particularly enjoy reading a meditation. I'd rather hear it.
Yeah. All right. Well, let's get into the episode. This is interesting too, because this episode is all about Richie, and I really struggled with the character of Richie to like him. I kept finding myself like, I really don't like him. I really don't. And I'm trying to look for the good in him. And it's interesting because the episode before that was, I think, the 7 fishes, or it was about Christmas Eve, or Christmas Day dinner. Man, that was very intense, that episode. But Richie, in that, at least we got to see him in the past with his ex-wife, and when she was pregnant, and he was very sweet and just see a different side of him. So anyway, with this episode, I was like, oh, it's all about this one. Okay. He gets sent basically to the quote best restaurant in the world, which I found out where they filmed it or based off of was a restaurant called Ever. But there is no such thing as this restaurant, obviously. He thinks he's being sent away to get rid of, to not have him be around, and bug the rest of the people at the restaurant that they're trying to open in like 4 weeks. But really came down to he's really there to learn about what it is to be in service or to be of service, because Richie is not a chef, right? He's the one that's not a chef. He's the customer person, right? He's the register person. So I think he too struggles to see where he fits in and feels like a burden in a way too. And he's not really their cousin, even though he calls himself their cousin. And they always kind of remind him that he's not their cousin, which is kind of rude. He's supposed to stage, right? Stage is what it's called.
Stage,
it's staged though. And then I was like, to write it down. I read it. I was like, okay, stage. He has to clean all the forks. That's what he's assigned, for a week. And he's definitely not happy. And Garrett is the person who seems to be in charge of him and is being a really major stickler about it. But as the week goes on, he really starts taking everything in and realizing that this restaurant's number one priority is the customers or patrons' experience. And it is about service and serving other people. It's funny. I don't know I think it's called Reservations. I should have looked it up. There was a movie, it was on HBO. I think it was HBO, called Reservations. And it reminded me a little bit of that movie, and it's nothing like it. Just with that, they kept saying, chef says this, chef is always watching. The movie was a little bit of a horror movie. So it reminded me of that, but it did not end up being like that at all. So what's I going to say? They have a staff member who their job is to basically focus on researching their patrons and soon to be patrons, and they want to give them an experience. It's interesting because to me, the decor and the feel of the restaurant was actually very cold, and all of that, and like Men in Black feeling, and they're all wearing these black suits, but it's not. They're actually extremely caring and warm. So I just found that interesting that they did it like that. I guess more, maybe, I don't know. I don't know if that was to surprise us, or what do you think about that?
I think somewhere in the episode when Richie finally gets to put on the suit and he says it's like putting on some armor. And Garrett says exactly.
Yes.
Right? So it's like, to me, it's very much like this kind of, Knights of the Round Table, this gallantry, right? Like, you are putting on this armor because you have earned it and you are here to serve.
Mm-hmm.
And I think that is, it's a code, you know, and that's what he realizes, that there is purpose beyond just cooking. And he asks everybody that he works with, why are you here? Why are you here? Why are you here?
Yes.
And he's finding out all these people who are not chefs.
Yeah.
That they just want to be there to serve.
Yes. There were so many great quotes in this episode that was said. Oh my gosh, hopefully I have the page. Okay.
Yes, I actually took notes.
Do you have it? Oh yeah. Yeah.
The start of the episode is this, my husband, no, because I'm not into sports. Coach K, they asked him a question, and he just goes on and on about how the most important thing is being part of a team, because you can't get there, meaning to win, alone. But to me, it's like in life, right? We are social beings, and we need other people to help us along.
We do.
Right? Nobody can do it alone.
No.
And the most important lessons of leadership are number one, to change your limits, that failure is not a destination. When you're down, stay there, figure out how to get back up again and do it different.
Mm-hmm.
Learn how to listen, stop talking, converse, go back and forth, which I thought was a beautiful thing.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't remember the third one because I was just
That's
enthralled
okay.
by it. But those two things I think are very much, all of that beginning are lessons that Richie learns along the way in that week.
Yep. And I think too, saying like collaborating with people, you don't have to lose yourself when you work with someone else. If you are, then it's probably not the right match, but it's really working together with someone to bring out probably the best in a way of both of you.
Right.
You can work independently, like you're independent, but you still need help from other people.
Right. Right.
Collaboration. I wanted to, some of the quotes, which obviously might just be, well, basically too, Garrett starts off and he says, every day here is the freaking Super Bowl. Like that's how you want to feel. Their work is their life's purpose. That's what I got too. And that really life's purpose is to serve, but not in the way people might think, like being a servant. It's to serve other people, but that also brings you joy and purpose. And then
and every night I make somebody's day. That's
yes,
how I can do this, because there's this woman and she's the one saying, this dish for this table, go, go, go. She's just
yes,
choreographing this whole thing.
yeah,
And he's sitting there watching this stressful thing happen
yeah,
and says, how can you do this? And she says, stand back. And she does all this stuff. And then she answers the question. He's like, what? And she's like, to answer your question. That's how I can do this.
yeah,
Which is a real beautiful thing.
yeah. That's
and
what
that forks are so important to this experience.
Yeah.
And I agree. I can't tell you how many times I've gone to a restaurant and there's a dirty fork and it's like, what else is wrong?
Totally ruins the mood.
Yes.
Totally takes you out of the experience. Because, you know, when you go out to eat, you kind of want to relax and you want to feel taken care of.
Yes.
You don't feel like doing it at your own home, because I don't. I was, like, also Chef Terry. Wait, was it Terry was the owner? Yes, Chef Terry, because they said Chef Terry. It's funny, my sister's name is Terry. Time well spent. Time should be time well spent. And that every second counts was also in there.
And never too late. They had that whole discussion about never too late.
Right.
Because he never found his purpose until this episode in life.
Yeah.
Right. It was always, and he didn't realize it. And this is something that happens, I think, to all of us. We don't realize we're already living our purpose sometimes. Like he was taking care of his wife when she was pregnant. He's a good dad. And, you know, he wasn't the best husband, but he was doing his best and all this ways. And he was helping the cousin who killed himself, you know, and supporting him. But this is an interesting thing that I discovered when I watched it again, that a lot of his past, you know, purpose was he was being a chameleon to whoever he was around, because he didn't feel the confidence in who he actually was. And working in that space, he found himself. And I think that's why he was like, hey, do you need anybody? And they were like, no, we got somebody else coming in. And he feels all rejected because he doesn't realize that he can take himself anywhere and be that master of who he is.
Terry, I don't think I wrote it down. I think she said something around maybe like, I heard you were really good or something like that.
That he said, thanks for, you know, I'm sorry my cousin asked you for a favor. And she said, I don't do favors.
Yeah.
He said, he said, why did you do this then? Because he believes in you.
Yes. Yeah.
And that was, I mean, I'm paraphrasing because somebody might watch this episode. That's not what she said.
I know, I can't remember either, and I should have written it down.
But really, that's why you know, he believes in you, so I'm letting you be here, right? Like that's powerful. And
Yeah.
he did not believe that his cousin believed in him. He
No.
thought that his cousin was just ditching him.
Yeah. And it was really his cousin saw it in him, which is amazing. And that cousin also, Carmi, sees the potential in really all of his
So many
workers.
people.
Yeah.
And so many people.
Who honestly, around the first episode, I'm like, oh my, what is going on? These people are a mess. Like, I was like,
Yes. Yes.
but yeah, it's just such a good show. That the music is great because they mix it up too. They
Yeah.
had Taylor Swift playing at the end, which I didn't totally expect. I read briefly before I got on here, but I'm not going to remember exactly what they said, how that came to be, and they really didn't have a backup song. Like they wanted that song to play at the end and for him to be singing it, and it
Right.
refers to Tiffany, his ex-wife, because she tells him that she's gotten engaged.
Mhm.
I mean, he did get Taylor Swift tickets for his
Which
daughter.
we all know how hard that is to happen.
Yes.
So he
Yes.
made magic happen, just
He
like
did.
he did at that restaurant.
Yeah.
Right? Again, him not
Mhm.
realizing how powerful and masterful he is with
Mhm.
this gift that he has. So he did that. He got the Taylor Swift tickets. And when that song came on, I like grabbed my husband's arm and shook him because I was like, like it really was so beautiful.
Yeah.
And that we, you know, I mean, but we can make magic.
Yeah.
Like magic exists in the world. We just have to make it.
Yeah. Definitely. I think you make magic in your work.
I felt a lot of parallels in this,
Yeah.
like particularly in this episode, but also in the series of how trauma and life just weighs us down, and it takes someone to help pull this kind of purpose out of you or pull this yourself into the light.
Mhm.
I think we all are, you know, dealing with things, listening to old programming or limiting beliefs that we've heard all our life. And
Yeah.
then, like, that's part of my purpose in life and work is to help people sift through that and sift out of that, those limiting beliefs and programming, and realize their truth and start talking to themselves like they matter. Like, believe in yourself because other people see it and you
Yeah.
don't see it yet. Like, to get to look in that mirror and see the truth about yourself and pull yourself up and have purpose. And that happened with other characters throughout the series too, that somebody had them on the back and complimented them or stated who they really were, and they felt seen.
Yeah.
And that just woke something up in them.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, a lot of my work is doing that, like digging through the trauma and helping people really see themselves beyond that and through the old conditioning.
Yeah. So you had said that the episode was, the writing in it was like a composed piece of music. Do you play music?
I do. Music, I feel like music is life. I think music is a great expression, whether you're singing it and playing other people's music or if you're writing and composing yourself. I have played violin since I was around 8 years old. Played it into my young adulthood, put it away for a couple of decades, and then picked it up again when we moved permanently here, and got a violin teacher. My husband got me a mandolin. He joined Rock Academy. Our son joined Rock Academy in Woodstock, Saugerties. And he was like, here, you know, you have an instrument you can play in Rock Academy. Because Rock Academy does not believe in just singing. You have to learn instruments too. And if they need to help you learn them, that's fine. But you can't just sing. This instrument is not the only one you should play. So, so I sing, I play violin, I play mandolin, I play keyboards, which I learned through them, and actually learned that I I'm picking it up fast, so it's
Good.
not bad.
That's awesome.
And performing next week in a
Hmm.
show with Rock Academy, with the adult program. So yes, I
That's
love music. I
fantastic.
sing all the time. I used to be a karaoke DJ for a short time. Um, our daughter is a singer-songwriter, and I do love, when I think of that show, to me, it's like this orchestral movement with
Hmm.
these like soft bits and these little like building crescendos and these like bam 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 kind of
Hmm.
fortissimo playing. And so yes, I do love music. I do see that, and um I feel like that show, that those writers, I feel like some of them must be musically inclined because
Hmm.
of the way they've created it.
Yeah, definitely. I'd like you to, can you tell everyone how you got into doing Reiki? I know you had told me, but I think it's wonderful, a wonderful story. And
Sure. So I'm going to give you the slightly longer version, but I don't
that's
remember if
fine.
we talked about it. So I started with yoga and did yoga teacher training, which was kind of an epiphany thing of my yoga teacher. Just we're having a conversation. She just turned to me, and it was a group, and she turned to me and said, "You should do teacher training." And me not believing in myself, I can't be a yoga teacher. And she's like, "Yes, you can." Did yoga teacher training with my husband, started teaching right away. I was pregnant while we did teacher training,
Oh my
and
goodness.
and then it
Wow.
was like wanted to hire me for prenatal yoga, and it was like, oh, okay, so this is an interesting calling. And then so that was pregnant with our first. The day I found out I was pregnant with our second, my husband found out he had Hodgkin's lymphoma, and our yoga teacher said, "I have a Reiki healer. You need to go see her right away." So he did. He did not want to do chemo. He did not want to do, he wanted to try and do natural. He saw the Reiki practitioner, um, went to Sloan Kettering, got all his scans before that, and they were like, "You got to start in 2 weeks after this test because we're doing a study group." And then he went to have a Reiki session or two. I can't remember. I think it was two. And then she said, "You have to do the treatment. You have to do the treatment." And he said, "Okay." And he called them back up and they said, "Well, now it's 3 weeks later, so you need to do a new PET scan." Did the new PET scan, and they said, "Oh, we must have made a mistake with measurements. It's smaller, the tumor's smaller, so you can go into a different study group with less toxic, and you don't need to do radiation, less toxic chemo, and you don't need to do radiation," which he was going to have to do the whole thing, and it was pretty scary
Wow.
because one group was over 10 centimeters. So think about a woman, giving birth in the
Yeah.
womb, and then afterwards it was like 9.8. So it was just under. I think it was like 10.1 or something like that. I can't remember,
Wow.
10.2. So it had gotten, you know, noticeably smaller, and Sloan Kettering doesn't make mistakes.
No.
So clearly the Reiki was helping him, and he was able to continue to work some. He was not having a lot of side effects a lot of people have. And so I told his Reiki practitioner, she was a master, and I said, "I need you to be my teacher. I need to learn this." And she wasn't teaching right away, and I kept just checking in with her. I was being a nag, and I was like, "How about now? Are you doing a class yet? Are you planning a class yet?" And finally, she was like, "Okay, Michelle, I'm doing a class." And that first class was just opened so many doors. Prior to that, I could feel presences of ghosts, and I had encounters with ghosts. First one was age 8. But after Reiki, my very next encounter with uh, an energy entity, whatever you want to call them, spirit, ghost, I heard them, which before that, it was like, I always describe it as Spy Kids when the robot children don't have their brains yet, and they're like, meow, meow, meow. It's like a noise, but I can't decipher what they're saying. And then the first time I did Reiki on myself after getting attuned, I had entities appear and I could hear them. And it was like, oh,
Mm.
that's new. um, so yeah, I knew that it was kind of confirmation for me, even though it was a very weird and wild, crazy first
Yeah.
experience. I knew that that was my confirmation. This is what you're supposed to be doing.
That's awesome. That's amazing. This is kind of a side question because this is also how my brain works. Did you have another job when you were doing the yoga training and then also when you started training, the Reiki
So
training?
yes, back then, before I did yoga training, oh my God, I was all over the place. So I was in the optical industry for years, optical retail. I was like, a frame specialist. I was a buyer, and then I got my optician's license and did that for a while. And then um, during the dot-com industry boom, I went and worked for a company called resume.com, and I got to write. And then I got moved up to editor really quick. And then I was managing editor really quick. And then the whole thing crashed.
No.
um, I got laid off. And that was right after we got married, which we got married 4 days after 9/11. And, we were working in the city at the time. We were living on Long Island. And there was a lot of chain of events. And that, when I was laid off, is when my yoga teacher was like, you should do teacher training.
Mm.
And so I ended up doing teacher training, and I became a yoga teacher. Um, and that was growing. It was going
Yeah.
well for me because I had this niche thing that I could
Mhm.
teach pregnant women, and I did mommy and baby yoga.
Mhm.
And and then from that, a couple of years later, when we had our second, and Greg got cancer.
Mhm.
Um, so then that evolved. So I was been working for myself for about 20 years, or almost. And yoga and Reiki, and that was pretty much it.
Mm. That's that's amazing. I just I really look up to people who become entrepreneurs and work for themselves because my life has just been follow the quote unquote rules. Go to college, get out of college, get a job, get benefits, 9 to 5, that type of thing. So I really, it fascinates me. And to like keep going and really, I mean, I know you can live your purpose in a 9 to 5 job, but if you're miserable, it doesn't have to be that way. It really doesn't, even though we are kind of brainwashed that it should be. And there's fear of things, but we shouldn't let fear scare us, which I know sounds funny. But so I really, I admire you for going after your calling, really, because some people don't. They'll ignore it because they're scared. So,
Well, it's a weird, society really demands us to follow the protocol,
mhm.
you know. And I did go to college, and I got an English degree, which you can do anything and nothing with.
Right.
um, because I wanted to be a writer, so that
Yeah.
made sense.
Yeah.
So, and ended up taking a full-time job where I was working part-time before college because I was good again at helping people.
Hmm.
I was really good, like Richie, with people. And so he was like, I don't want to let you go. What it's going to take to make you stay. And I really wanted to move out of my parents' house because that was kind of a toxic environment.
Hmm.
And I was like, this is what okay, I figured it out on paper. This is what I need to go move out and rent my own apartment. And I gave him that number, and he was like, okay. And I was like, what? So, did it for a really long time. Um,
Yeah.
yeah. And it's hard. I did it while my children were young, and they would
Hmm.
come to yoga classes with me. My son was my baby in mommy baby yoga until he was 3 because he would allow it. My daughter retired as soon as she could walk. She was like, I'm out.
That's so funny.
Then I had to use a doll as my baby and get her a sitter. Um, and then they came to kids yoga with me. By the time I got to, teen yoga with them, they were just not, then I would have to bribe them. Okay, we can go to Dunkin' Donuts after class if you treat me like a teacher and not your mother.
Oh my gosh.
So I made it work. I
Yeah.
worked around their schedules. A lot of it was part time. It was, I was not, you know, I was not making millions of dollars
Right,
doing it,
right.
but I was living the way we chose and the way we wanted. And my son, who we call him like our little Buddha,
Hmm.
says these wise things. And we're like driving in the car. He's like, Mom, do you love what you do? I love what I do. Why? Why do you
Aw.
do what you do? And I'm like, oh my gosh, I said, I'm thankful every day because I get to do what I like to do and I get to help people and I get to like connect deeply with people with their like deepest part of themselves. And I just love it. And I'm so grateful I get to do it. But like, I was getting all like choked up thinking about this because
Hmm.
nobody thinks about it, right?
No,
And here's my little
especially a
son
child.
asking
Yeah.
me, who, by the way, part of my love for the bear also is that he's our little chef. Like
Oh,
since he was little, he'd be my
yeah.
assistant chef when I would cook and make dinner, and he's going to culinary school. So
For sure.
he tore through both seasons
No,
when we
yeah,
finally
I'm
got him
sure.
to watch. But yeah, so he's living his passion, and we're
Hmm.
very supportive of our kids to
Hmm.
do that. Whereas my husband and I, our parents were like, "Go get a practical job." My mother
Yeah.
wanted me to go to school to be an engineer, and I almost did it. I got to the placement exams, and I looked around and said, "These are not my people, and this is not my
Hmm.
world."
Hmm.
And I did finish the placement exam, and then I did not accept their scholarships and all the things they were offering because I was like, "Nope, that's not me."
Yeah.
It broke my mother's heart
Oh,
that I went to community college to find myself.
right. Yeah. Oh, well, yeah. I mean, that's how I was raised too. And I have that in my head with my son that I'm like, he doesn't have to go to college as long as he's doing what he loves and he is doing stuff, not
Yes,
sitting on
yes,
his booty.
exactly.
But
Yes,
I
exactly.
definitely encourage him to do what he wants to, in terms of that. He's like, I want to be a mailman and a scientist. I'm like, okay. He's like, I'll be a mail, I'll deliver mail, and then at night I'll do science experiments. I'm like, yes,
Fantastic. We need people like that.
yes,
Multi-purpose.
multi-purpose purposes. Um, all right, I'm just trying to see. I do know this answer, but what brought you to the Hudson Valley?
Oh, wow. I feel that was a calling.
Hmm.
So we lived on Long Island. We moved to the city. We had our kids in Brooklyn. And I was losing my mind in the city life, the stress, the crowdedness. I'm a type of person with both because of what I do, but also with my upbringing. I need a lot of alone time to kind of replenish.
Hmm.
And it's very hard to do that in a city environment. So we put it out there to friends and stuff like, does anybody have a recommendation of a place we can go? Just like 2 or 3 hour drive, spend a weekend. We need a break from the city. And a friend of a friend, actually the brother of a friend, said, I have a cabin in Bethel and you guys can use it, just cover the cleaning costs and whatever. And so we did. We went there and it was fabulous. And it was like near a lake, and we did the whole thing and all these wild animals and nature. And it was just everything I needed to fill my soul. And then we went to breakfast, and I got one of those real estate magazines, started looking, and I said, we can do this. We can do this, and we can have it, and we can come here on weekends and do this and that. And then my husband was like, well, we really should find a place that we could rent it when we're not there.
Mm.
And this area is not conducive to that because they literally shut down for multiple months at a time, at least at the time we were looking. So we expanded it, Bethel, Woodstock, right? The whole thing. So we
Hmm.
started looking at Woodstock. A friend of ours who grew up here all her life told us Salisbury has hits and you can rent, and lots of people want to rent for the horse shows.
Hmm.
Okay. So we started looking, we could not find anything in Salisbury. So we expanded back to Woodstock. And we visited the house that we ended up buying. We visited it in person 3 times, but every time we came up to look at houses, we didn't realize, again, this is one of those things you don't recognize your calling. We would do a drive-by, like we were driving by an ex. Oh, they're looking out the window. Go, keep driving, don't slow down. And then the last time we saw the house, I was like, this is the house. Let's put in an offer. And my husband was like, really? And I'm like, we keep coming here. We're called to it. We're drawn to it. And before we moved up here, which this is the whole thing also of that episode and show, the hospitality and the way they do their restaurant. When we had it as an Airbnb when we weren't here. So we basically covered the mortgage so we could, have our apartment that we were renting in the city and have a house. And I wanted to eventually move up here. I was like, kids are done in high school, 6 years, I'm out.
Yeah.
But when we rented it Airbnb, I would do what some of these people did, like ask questions. What are you coming for? Oh, birthday. Okay. Cleaning lady. Hey, here's some extra dollars. Can you go get some balloons? And she would go, she was like, not just balloons, you need flowers. So we would just, compensate her. A couple of brothers were coming because their other brother had an accident, like a hiking or rock climbing accident. He was like broken in the hospital and they were coming to pick him up. So we had get well soon balloons. So we just tried to make everybody stay good. We had musicians stay and we we always have a record player with records and stuff, and they left us one of their records.
Oh, that's so cool.
One of their albums. Like, there's so many things, and we just tried to make it special, and people noticed the little things that we did. We always, when we travel, are like, oh, you know what we're missing? So when we were renting our house, we made sure that nothing was missing. And we had one review. I'll never forget this one review. It was a group of people. And sorry, Siri is jumping in.
Oh. I didn't hear her.
People were staying, and in their review, they said they were sitting around the house and said, I wonder if they have this. And they said, yes, and it's exactly where you would think it would be, and it was labeled. Like, we had some of our drawers and cabinets labeled, because I can't tell you how many times you go to a place and you'd be like, where are the plates, or where is this, or where is that? And then when you empty the dishwasher, oh my God, where does this stuff go?
Yeah.
So we just had little sticky notes because one of the places we went to had that, little label maker things, like plates, this and that.
Yeah.
We did have some people rearrange our silverware drawer.
I guess they really wanted to feel comfortable.
Enjoyed it. Right. And we really enjoyed it. And we would be excited and wait to see if they would review us. Yeah. Because we really enjoyed serving people.
Well, it's sad that you aren't doing that anymore, but it's also really good that you're not doing it anymore, because that means you live here. Right?
Yes. So the pandemic kind of called us here, which we thought was going to be temporary. And I really felt like, oh my God, this happened to get us to stay.
Yeah.
Not that this, you all, bystanders of it, but I mean, for us, we had this place, we came, and immediately I was like, I don't think I'm going to leave. Even though the rest of our family was still considering going back.
Yeah.
I was like, I don't have any reason to go back.
I will, I'll be the Airbnb hostess. Well, not a lot of people obviously came to this area during the pandemic, but a lot left. A lot did leave. Yes. Some did stay, but a lot. I'd say, from my experience from working in the school district, I really kind of think the majority did go back, or at least leave here. I don't know if they went back to the city, but yeah. That's great though. I love your story. I'm trying to think if I had any more questions. I guess, for people who don't know what Reiki is, could you explain
that's good.
that?
I should explain what
No, sometimes you just assume someone knows.
No, right. So Reiki is an ancient energy healing. A lot of people in the past have referred to it as a hands-on healing. There's so little touch, even in person, that it's such a misnomer. It's so much about the energy and moving, but the energy does come out of the hands. So in a sense, it is hands around. So the practitioner is a channel of the energy, the purest energy in the universe. We all have this energy in us, but when we are programmed with other people's stuff, when we're stressed, when we've been through trauma, we lose the vitality of that energy. And so when Reiki channels through the practitioner, goes through the hands back into you, it clears away all the stuff that is not yours, and it wakes your energy field back up so that you can be the best, the strongest version of yourself. And that's kind of the best description that I can give about what it is and what it does. And it's not, it sounds woo-woo, it's not religious, although many people feel their faith grow, either practicing it or receiving it if they have it. Mm-hmm. I have worked with people who are agnostic or atheist, and I just change my wording sometimes, and I always preface with things that, you know, sound a little too out there. But yeah, it's so that's part of it. The Akashic Records, just because I know a lot of people don't know what that is, and it's a big part of what I do. Akashic Records are the records of all of our lifetimes, all of our history in this lifetime, as well as future potentials, both future potentials within this lifetime and future lifetimes. Now, when I access the Akashic Records, I never see future lifetimes for a person because that is so far away and it's not relevant to a person in their lifetime now. Some people in near-death experience actually get to see that stuff, but they usually don't come back and remember the lifetimes. They may remember, like, I saw that. But I will see future potentials because it can be relevant to somebody to know they have options and all the paths. This is very important. All pathways lead to you finding yourself, lead to your happiness, lead to your highest potential. We sometimes travel in a closed ring circle and we feel like we keep repeating the same thing over and over again. It's when we shift our mindset or our behavior or our choices just slightly, and it becomes an open circle and a spiral. And as we come around to those same experiences, we have more wisdom and we can make a different choice and maybe widen that circle or change the trajectory of that spiral. But if you look at the movement of planets and the moon and all that, everything is orbiting. Everything is moving in spirals and circles. So are we energetically in life. Yeah. Because Reiki was introduced to me back in college and I was like, oh, that's so weird. Let me go get a psychic reading. And it was introduced to me in teacher training and I was a little more open to it. And then when that thing happened to my husband, by the way, he's okay and he's over 17 years free and clear.
Oh my gosh.
When that happened, that was the time. Like I could not deny it. I could not walk away from it again. Yeah. That was when I had to.
Do you get Reiki? I don't know if it's worded right. Do you get Reiki done to you by someone else?
Yes. Okay. Yes. Okay. So that's one of those things of we need people, right? Yeah. I can work on myself a lot, and I do often and frequently. And I always say to any potential clients, you should pick someone who does the work, who works on themselves. But I also receive from others. So I did it less frequently in regular life, but when the pandemic happened, I had a team of people who I would have work on me depending on what I was feeling and needing. And when you know a lot of other practitioners, you do like these Reiki exchanges, I'll work on you, you work on me. Because when you're working on yourself, you don't always see the blocks, like Richie, right? He didn't see his true potential and he didn't see the block in his way. So when somebody else works on you, they can call it out and they can call out your bullshit. Sorry.
No, that's okay. That's okay.
They can call out what's keeping you from XYZ, or this is what you needed to clear. Because, even when we exercise at home and we're doing like a tape and be like, oh, I'm not going to hold that pose that long, or I'm not going to do that many reps. But when someone else is working on you, you just have to be with it. So yes, I absolutely do have other people work on me.
And do you work on your husband? Do you work on your children? Just curious.
I don't work on them that often. The kids are they're teenagers, so they're in this age. Like my daughter was feeling run down and slightly elevated temperature last night. And I said, do you want some Reiki? And she was like, no, I'm going to ride this out. And if I feel worse, I might. But I try not to work on them too often or too deeply because same thing, they're in my circle and I don't always see the issues or the blocks, or I don't see it clearly, you know, or their spirit guides, because I channel and I kind of have a conversation with their spirit guides. They may be like, they don't need to know, you don't need to know, whatever. So I'll be blocked from seeing full view because I may project on them. So in some ways, when they're going through something big, they may be better off seeing someone else.
That makes sense. That makes sense. So you can also do it remotely, you said?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes. So remotely, I mean, I kind of perfected that over the pandemic and it got everything got very expansive.
Yeah.
But I do work out of a couple of different studio spaces in Woodstock. So I do in person as well as remote. I do work on animals and children. And I also help people in their transition or crossing over. I've done a lot of that as well.
Very cool. That's what I was gonna. Yeah. So the way for people to find you, you have a website, right? myreikihealer.com.
Correct.
And on social media, you're at my Reiki Healer. I mean, I'll put all this also in the description, and you also have a phone number. So 845-412-8085. But again, I'll put that in the description, the links with all those links and information. So I don't think I have any other questions. Oh, one question, random question. What is something you cannot leave the house without? And I don't mean like cell phone or, keys or whatever. Just something you have to always have with you.
I always have to be wearing some kind of crystal, whether it's rings, necklace, something. I have to have some kind of crystal. And I literally every morning say, how am I feeling? And which of these is calling to me?
That's what I was going to ask you.
So if I don't, it's my armor.
Yeah, there you go.
Yeah. Or amulet or whatever you want to call it. But and I wear what I need that day. Like, do I need protection today? I'll wear a protective stone. Do I need more love today? I'll wear a love stone. Do I need more insight? I'll wear something that's going to connect me to, the more energetic or woo-woo or spiritual space.
How many pieces of jewelry do you have with crystals?
Oh, too many. I have too many crystals.
Is it always a necklace? Or
no, I have some rings and I have necklaces. I do have earrings I almost never wear because it's just I don't know why, I just never wear them. But yes, necklaces, and I'll sometimes double up on my necklaces and layer them.
I was gonna say, depending
shorter
what you
ones and longer ones. Yeah.
Bracelet, or is it all? Do you have any bracelets?
I do have some bracelets. I don't wear them often, but I do have them and I do wear them. Yeah. I wear a lot of those little beaded ones with the crystals on them.
Do you ever just carry a crystal with you, like in your pocket or your bag or whatever? Okay.
Yes. I have a couple of like palm stones or worry stones that I keep in my pocket, and I also have. I absolutely adore Lemurian Quartz, which is the quartz that has these ridges on it, and so the ridges are said to be in the woo-woo world that the etchings are actually ancient language etched into stone. Ooh. And when a person finds their Lemurian crystal from that lifetime, they know, and it feels just right in their hand, and they can spiritually read it, even though they may not be able to consciously read it.
I love that. I have to talk with you more a little offline about crystals. I don't know a ton at all. I mean, I really don't, just from what maybe just like watching somebody talk about them and learn and hearing the different names and things like that. But I haven't delved into that yet, but I love that.
I adore crystals. I can talk for days.
All right. I don't think I have any other questions.
I actually have one last thing I want to
say. Yeah, definitely.
I know I've mentioned woo-woo, and some of the things that some of the things about Reiki and Akashic Records and channeling can seem off-putting because it seems so woo-woo out there. And I know that there are practitioners who are more airy about the work. I feel like, well, first of all, I'm a Taurus, double Taurus rising, and Virgo moon. So I'm very earthbound and very grounded. Reiki doesn't have to be looked at as this woo-woo thing. It is used in hospitals. It is used in Sloan Kettering. It is used in other hospitals, local hospitals. Kingston, I believe, has a Reiki program, and they have nurses who have trained to become Reiki practitioners within that space.
I had no idea.
It's doctors don't know how or why it works, and honestly, neither do we. But it works. It does something. It changes your outlook. It changes how you feel about yourself and the world. So, one of my graduate students says to people, "It can't hurt, right? So why not try? Because it might help."
Yeah. I love that. And also too, it's working with energy. We are all energy, and people try to deny that. Like we're all energy. That's what it comes down to. And to work with it and to tap into it. That's what you want.
Right.
You might not be able to see it, but everybody can feel energy. I don't care what you believe.
Right. Exactly.
You always can feel it. You know when someone walked into the room, even if you couldn't see them, you could feel it.
Yes. And mothers especially know that because we feel things. Something's off with our kid. You know?
Definitely. Right. Well, this was awesome. Thank you so much for doing this.
Thank you for having me.
Just awesome. I don't know what other word to say. Fantastic. All right, everybody. I guess we'll see you next time.